Here is the finished console and radio in my truck. The stock Excursion console is a pathetic little piece of plastic, and watching another video on YouTube, I got the idea of building a bigger Excursion console, something that I can rest my arm on. I removed the armrests from the seats, which were actually too low, and built this thing. I would have built it higher, except my wife would have had a problem on her side using it as an armrest. Functionally, it came out great. Appearance-wise, not so much. Wrapping the vinyl was, I wouldn't call it a complete disaster, but it was not, it's not good. We shall speak no more of the vinyl job. It is what it is. If it bothers me over the winter, I might pull it out and redo it, but I seriously doubt it's going to bother me. So, I had decided to do a Nexus 7 in the dash. It turned out it's not in the dash. That's the hole for the original radio. It's in the console. And yes, it's two different colors of vinyl. I did that on purpose. I didn't want to have a big expanse of the same color of vinyl. So the dash itself is two different colors. The vinyls in here go well with the colors in the truck. It's a 14-year-old truck. I really don't care that much. The console does blend into the dash very well. I actually utilized the lower dash portion that was there and just built the console off of that. It's actually attached to the truck via the piece, the original piece of the lower dash. But here is my Nexus 7. And it's in this tray that's removable because below that is some of the key pieces to it. The Nexus 7 right now is just providing music. I am going to get a backup camera, but I haven't gotten that installed yet. I just wanted to make sure that this worked before I went any further with it and spent any more money. The Nexus 7, you can see this little tray here is kind of nice. It's got regular automotive carpet in the bottom. I've got a couple of strips of the Velcro hook on the self-adhesive on the back of the tablet to keep it from moving. It does not move in here at all when I'm driving. Inside here, you can see, well, you can see what a mess it is. This is the power supply. It's providing 5 volts for both the tablet and the USB hub, which you can see tucked up under here. Utilizes an OTG cable. The tablet itself was running Teemer's kernel, which makes this whole thing possible. Out of the USB hub, it goes to this DAC here, which works just fine for me. The power for the input power for the power supply is just coming from the original radio source, because it is a switched ignition power, so it comes on with the key. From the DAC, I'm using this DAC because it has an optical out. I'm utilizing the optical cable, going back to a digital system processor DSP. It's a JL Audio TWKD8. We'll see that in just a moment. I also have down there in the bottom, you can see a dual USB power port, which is providing power for 2 phones. Up here where the original radio was, I just blocked that off with a piece of ABS plastic. I just attached it in here with VHB tape, and it works spectacularly. This mount here is a magnetic mount for my phone. It works very well on all but really rough washboard dirt roads. I've got the other end of the power cable, one of them right here, a nice little 90-degree plug on here. It just plugs into the phone and it sits there very well. I use the phone for I can use it for maps, Google Maps when I want to, and also I have a digital heads-up display speedometer, because the speedometer in this truck is notoriously bad. So put the tray back in place very nicely. It fits in there very nicely. Before we get to the electronics, look more at the console. The top here, I've got a couple of just cup holders. These were marine cup holders I bought off of Amazon. No big deal. They fit in there wonderfully. 3 3/4 inch hole saw, and I had to pound these things in with a hammer. They are not coming out. Coffee cup sits in there very nicely. This is removable. You can see some of the cables coming across. I put in a 2x4 under here because the coffee cup was sitting down a little too low for my liking. Again, functional, not necessarily pretty. And the back portion of it also comes off. I'm not sure why I did this, but kind of was building on the go with ideas on the go. Again, 2 more cup holders side by side. Mostly they're just holding stuff. These were cup holder inserts from the truck originally. That's another phone mount that I haven't put on yet. In case I want something shallow in there as opposed to this big cup or a big water bottle, I can put this in. Of course, these are not big enough to fit in here well, but we found a drapery grommet, half of a drapery grommet, fits on here perfectly, and then when it sits in there, beautiful. Sits in there very nicely. We normally just keep those back there. So, going to the back of the truck then, the console, you can see in here the electronics. What we have is, I mentioned the JL Audio TWK D8. Very nice unit. That's the DSP. It accepts the optical in from the DAC up on the other side, and then it via little 18-inch RCA cables feeds the amplifier, which is an Alpine PDX V9, I believe it is. It's rated at 100 amps, 100 watts for 4 channels plus 500 for the subwoofer. The subwoofer, by the way, is built into the middle of the console. You can see up in the upper left corner there the connection for the subwoofer. The other speakers are connected. We just have a wire or cable bundle in the back that runs up underneath the console and goes back up under the dash where the radio used to be to connect all the speakers in. The nice thing about the DSP is that it also has a master gain control or volume control, which is very nice to have. I mounted that on the front of the console, right below where my arm sits, and it is very convenient for adjusting the volume. Up, down. It also has, in addition to the volume control, it has a bass control, so I can, independent of the master volume, I can turn the bass down or up, which is probably hard to tell, the phone speaker. But that's it. I'm running power amp on here on the Nexus 7 to control all my music. I didn't show it, but in the USB hub in there was a thumb drive, 128 gig thumb drive, which holds all my music and is almost full. The whole thing ends up sounding pretty darn good. Probably doesn't come through very well on the phone speaker, but it shakes the truck, and that's pretty good considering this is a 7,700-pound beast. So that's it. It was an interesting project. It took a long time. There was all sorts of pitfalls. The worst of which was just getting the amplifier to work properly. I used originally was using the cabling from the original radio install, but it turned out that the amplifier did not like it, and I had to replace the power and the ground. And of course my power cable is now running down the side of the console attached to it. It was very difficult to try to fish it underneath the console. And again, it's one of those things that if I take the console out because it bothers me, I'll run the wire underneath, but again, I seriously doubt that it's going to bother me. Not enough to want to rip all this stuff out and put it back in. So anyway, that's it. That's the summary of my car radio, carputer, whatever you want to call it, console build installation. I'm glad it's done. It works well. I don't want to do it again. It was a lot of work. So that's it.